other things that I got to sample that I really hadn't sampled before. I ate a fresh papaya. Wasn't my favorite. Definitely enjoyed the pineapple a lot more. And we got to have a fresh pina colada, non-alcoholic, of course, school function. One day we went to Santo Domingo, which is the capital of the Dominican Republic and is considered to be one of the oldest European settlements in the Americas, because this is where Christopher Columbus apparently landed. And so there's a lot of history there. And so the day we were there, we got to visit the presidential palace, which is like the Capitol. You can see all of us there in front of the building. And again, it was an FFA trip, so they were to wear their FFA jackets if they had them. Inside is a lot like our Capitol, where, elaborate paintings and chandeliers and fancy furniture and marble staircases. And so again, it was a pretty interesting tour that we got to go around and see. We sat at the table where real leaders from world countries come and visit the Dominican Republic. And so that was pretty interesting. We toured around Santo Domingo a little bit more, and we came across the Calle Las Damas, which is considered to be the oldest street in the Americas. And again, because it was European, not because roads didn't exist before, but definitely more colonized at this point. Here are several statues of Christopher Columbus and Christopher Columbus's son's house at the top there. Of course, now it's just a museum. And again, Colon is the Spanish word for Columbus. We got to go inside one of the oldest churches in Americas, and again, this would be a Catholic church, and this was established in 1523. Remember, Columbus sailed in 1492, and so this is, of course, after that. The girls could not go in the church, though, because they were wearing a tank top and their shorts were too short, so they weren't allowed in, so I took several pictures for them as well. We also got to go to the Amber Museum, and the only reason why that was really cool is because the real piece of amber that was used in the Jurassic Park movie, the original one, where they had the mosquito that they got the blood from to make the dinosaurs, was in this museum. And again, amber is not really, it's not really a mineral or a gem. It's actually hardened tree sap, and so that's how the bug got caught in there. We drove by Sammy Sosa's house, and those of you that are baseball fans, he played for the Chicago Cubs, I don't know how many years, but quite a bit, and he was even in the running for the home run leader for a long time. And also then he got traded and he played for a little while somewhere else, but now he's not playing baseball. A lot of good baseball players come from the Dominican Republic. This was a fortress, which again, of course, it was there to protect it in earlier times. Those are the ancient cannons and so forth. And it was overlooking the water so that anybody that would come towards them, they could protect themselves. One day we actually had to do some community service, so we planted some trees at an elementary school near Hanako. And then after that, we actually got to have a river barbecue, so we grilled right there along the river. I don't know that I would call it a river, it's more like a large creek, but it did have pretty good current, and one of the favorite things to do was kind of to body surf down the current and then get out and walk back up. I did that several times, and I hit my knee really hard on a rock and got a nice little injury from that. So this is the crew out there in the river, and again, it wasn't very deep at all. We also got to visit a Carnival museum. Now, Brazil is well known for their Carnival, which is huge celebrations and parades and parties and beads and decorating. And every city has kind of a unique looking mask. And so this city's masks kind of looks like a duck bill with some funky ears. So every year they make these masks and they parade, and then they have them up in this museum. The last 3 days, we got to say, at an all-inclusive resort in the Dominican Republic at Puerto Plata at Correal Marion Resort. And, 2 pools, food, drinks all day, all night. You could, there was a beach on the Caribbean, just pretty much anything you wanted there, you could have. And so this is just things that we did. Played some volleyball, the girls got their hair braided, and our last day was spent on the beach. All right, so a lot of the things in the Dominican Republic are the same as they are in other countries. So just because I talked about pineapple or rice or coffee in the Dominican Republic, you can pretty much generalize that a lot of these countries do the same sorts of things as well, or grow the same sorts of things. All right, let's continue labeling our map. To the west of the Dominican Republic is Puerto Rico, and Puerto Rico technically is not independent. I mean, they kind of govern themselves, but remember they are a Commonwealth of the United States, and so we have kind of power over them, if you will. The next group of islands here, all of these are the Virgin Islands, and they are actually divided into 2 groups. The UK, or the United Kingdom Virgin Islands, and the US Virgin Islands. Now, there are 3 main islands in the U.S. Virgin Islands: St. Thomas, St. Croix, C-R-O-I-X, and St. John's. And so those are the 3 main islands in the U.S. Virgin Islands. And these islands here to the south of the Virgin Islands, 2 islands by the name of Trinidad and Tobago. And so they're one country, but 2 different islands. All right, moving to our last map. Again, you don't need to label the Caribbean Sea, Pacific Ocean, Atlantic Ocean if you don't want to. Those are there for reference points. So we're starting at 12 o'clock. We have the country of Venezuela. Venezuela has a lot of oil to the north in the Caribbean Sea. So oil is a huge product that they have. They also have some deposits of gold as well, which is why a lot of the Spaniards came to colonize South America, because of the gold. And again, you've seen like the Disney movie El Dorado, searching for that gold city in Middle America or South America. Next we have Colombia, and Colombia is the country that is actually connected to Panama or Middle America. Colombia, of course, is well known more for 2 things. One, having a lot of women that end up winning the Miss Universe contest, and so that's kind of the claim to fame there. But also they're more well known for the cocaine industry, and that's where a lot of the illegal drugs like cocaine come from into the United States via Mexico. Then we have Ecuador, and Ecuador is really a country that means literally equator, because this line of latitude right here is the equator. So that word Ecuador is Spanish for equator. The capital of Ecuador is Quito, and Quito is almost right on the equator, but it's high up in the mountains. So it's one of the unique places in the world where you can throw a snowball over the equator instead of it being hot and humid like you would expect along the equator. Peru. Peru, you read about Ecuador and Peru in chapter 11. Machu Picchu is in Peru, and they talked about Lima, which is the capital of Peru. Peru is, again, the location of the ancient Incans, and this little lake right here between Peru and Bolivia is kind of a unique name, and the lake there is the highest navigable lake in the world. It's called Lake Titicaca, Titicaca. And again, a name like that, hopefully you don't forget the name of that lake. We have Chile, of course, the long country along the western border. And in the north, you have the Atacama Desert, which is a location of a lot of copper and so forth. And to the south, you can see that a lot of islands here. And the southern tip of South America is called Tierra del Fuego, and they share this tip with Argentina. So Tierra del Fuego is shared by Chile and Argentina. Argentina is one of those countries that agriculturally is very similar to Iowa. Iowa is about right here, 42 degrees north, and this is about 42 degrees south. And so in this area here, they're going to get the same kind of climate, you know, the 4 seasons, the same heat in the summer and cool in the winter. So they grow a lot of corn. They also have a lot of cattle. And so, again, they have a lot of similarities to Iowa. Next, we have Uruguay. And Uruguay is obviously a very small country. But we actually had a foreign exchange student from Uruguay not too long ago. And that's where I've got the currency from Uruguay on my bulletin board. Middle country here is Paraguay. Paraguay and Bolivia look like they're landlocked, which means they don't have a border on an ocean. Bolivia is really the only one that's landlocked. Paraguay is connected via a river, and so they actually can get imports and exports out pretty easily. Moving up, the biggest country in South America is Brazil. Remember that they do not speak Spanish. They actually speak Portuguese because Portugal settled them. It's also the location of the Summer Olympics this summer. Then next, we have 3 countries at the top. We have French Guiana, which of course is colonized by France and actually is technically controlled still by France. The reason why they colonized this is because of an island called Devil's Island off of the coast of French Guiana, which was used to send really bad prisoners from France to there. In the middle, you have Suriname, and Suriname is a country that does not speak Spanish as well. They speak Dutch, and Guyana is the last country on our map. On Monday, I'll talk about Guyana, and we'll talk a little bit about a significant historical event that happened there that has connections back to the United States.